guys. Welcome to the show. In this segment, we're going to talk about a statement that Jeff Bezos made at the Viva Tech conference in Paris. He was saying that we need to prioritize water for AI and not as a baseline comfort for humanity. As it turns out, this was not a real statement. I went and I did some research. He didn't actually say it. But it really calls attention to the fact that water is one of those things that AI uses. The second thing is air. And this calls attention to a lawsuit taking place in the state of Mississippi. The NAACP and the Southern Environmental Law Center are suing XAI and Elon Musk for polluting the air in their communities. He has two large facilities in northern Mississippi that run Colossus and Grok, and he's got approximately 57 natural gas turbines that are allegedly temporary turbines, and they have been polluting the air, throwing heat and chemicals into the air, and it's affecting the community. And what's really significant about this is that the Department of Justice has intervened on behalf of Musk and wants the court to throw the case out because of national security issues. So Neil, let's kind of break this down in without going into all the legal stuff. Let's go into the fact that these AI data centers, whether or not Jeff Bezos is talking about the water here, they do impact the water. They do impact air. They are impacting stuff that we need on a daily life. So what have you got to say about that?
Listen, there's a larger capitalistic play here, right? That we
Yeah.
have to discuss. Okay. And that is related to water and air, right? In particular, water being a human right? The idea that we need water to survive. Kevin O'Leary, who is plays Mr. Wonderful
Wonderful.
on the Billionaire show, all right, where people beg for money. Okay. Um, he clearly said that water is a commodity that should be traded like oil. Okay. And it should be that billionaires should control it, and therefore they get to decide who gets it. Okay. And what we've seen is we've seen these billionaire companies and these billionaires buying up water supplies, right, in order to bottle water. Okay. Right. We saw this in Atlanta when they were in drought conditions and they needed the water for their people. Everybody else was on restrictions, but the bottling company, Aquafina down there, was not on a restriction, and they get to keep bottling. So we see this all the time. And the idea is we have to be vigilant in the idea of our local communities, of making sure that our water isn't being bought by some corporation. We've had this here in Orange County, right? Town of Waukegan, somebody came, wanted to buy our water. We said no, so it never happened. But
Oh,
in
that's good.
Newburgh, it did happen, you know,
Really?
which is one of the reasons why they're having issues with water down in the Newburgh area, right? Newburgh is a town adjacent to our current town. This happens all the time, and we have to be very vigilant about it because this is our water. And we take for granted that it comes through our faucets, but at the end of the day, it could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, and there has been talk that especially with the just massive growth of these data centers, um, in recent years, and pretty much in the last year, all we hear about is data centers now. They are growing bigger, more massive. They're requiring more energy, which is also impacting communities. Right, communities are being forced to pay more for electric than ever before, where these facilities are placed, but they also need massive cooling. And so they tap into the water supply. And that, whatever they're utilizing, it's gone. And so that puts a strain on just regular drinking water. It's just a horrible thing. And it's the reason why we need regulations in this country. for this type of thing.
Well, it's the water is getting gobbled up by wealthy people who don't really give a shit about anybody else, and that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, we're
They're
expendable.
billionaires. They're billionaires, and everybody else is just secondary. And if a few people die along the way, that's perfectly fine. And then the disingenuousness is we get blamed, right?
Oh,
So
yes.
they're creating these data centers, right? And we're being told, well, because of all the electronics we use. But what they're not saying is it's the flock cameras, right? Like it's the cameras that they're putting everywhere that require, I mean, to save a video, which I mean, you're talking about being taped 24/7 now, right? It takes a lot of space. I mean, just look at when you save a video on your phone. It's the same thing. You know, like they're saving these videos to databases all across the United States, and they have all these flock cameras. But who's paying for the flock cameras? Not them. We're paying for the
Us.
flock cameras, right? They're coming through our local communities through local grants. So at the end of the day, it makes it look like we're the ones wanting it and buying it because we're the ones installing the flock cameras in our local communities. Like this is like the stupidity of it, right? It's this revolving door of, well, you guys asked for it. You gave a grant to your local community to put a flock camera in. The flock cameras went in. Now you need the data center to store the flock camera data. Like I mean, it's this revolving door. It's
Yeah.
and it's never going to end. Never going to end.
Yeah. And so I think the wind up here is that we really need to pay more attention. And I see a lot of creators are talking about this, but I think we need to really push our elected leaders to push to push for more regulation on this stuff. Do we really need right now? We have either in working, actually running, and in process of being built about 5,000 data centers with more. Okay. And just think about the massive amount of energy that they need. So if you're thinking about these natural gas turbines pumping heat and, just pollution into the air. But we didn't even talk about the noise pollution. These things hum. They let out this hum that you can hear for a distance. And so people living in these communities, and particularly with the case of Mississippi, they have to live with not just the pollution and the water, but also the noise from this low hum that's sort of nonstop. And so we really need regulations. And it's interesting because you had shared with me a couple of weeks ago a video from the guy that runs BlackRock talking about how we needed to beat China with AI and how they plan to do that and how they plan to finance it, which is another topic you should definitely talk about. Um, but more specifically, with beating China, we have we have a population of about 340 million people, and we have 5,000 data centers with more on the way. Right? China has a population of about 1.4 billion, and they have only 500 data centers, and they have regulations to limit them. I mean, if China is beating us, it's at taking care of their own population. They're doing it better than us.
No, here's the
Real.
thing. Here's the thing. This country, right, talks about capitalism, right? And everything is about either blaming somebody, competing with somebody, right? Like everything is a game to these people. So in order, oh, we need to deregulate and kill people because we need to beat China, or we need to do this with Russia, or we need to do this with the right. Everything. When you realize that it's just P.T. Barnum selling you a flea circus, and that's all it is, right? I mean, you know, I was having this conversation with a family member this morning, right? The best phone that's made is made by a Chinese company. Not
Yes.
not the iPhone, not the, it's the HTC. The HTC phone is much better but you can't buy it here because it's been banned. We don't live in a capitalist society. When you start banning products from the marketplace because they are better then everything that you have in your marketplace, okay, that is no longer capitalism. Now you've entered, like, that is the epitome of fascism, right? That is your government controlling the marketplace. They did it with
Yes.
TikTok, right? They did it with TikTok. They said, oh, we don't want TikTok. And then they gave some vague excuse about China and data, right? Did they ever offer any proof to the American people for that? No. And what has it done? They sold it to an American company. Okay. Everything is a lie. These people, all they do is lie to you in order to enrich themselves. When you realize that, and now they are coming for your water and your air and everything else, they want to make it like Hong Kong was like a few years ago. Like everybody remember, like you remember what Hong Kong was like in the 90s? Like it was filled with smog. Like you couldn't walk in the street without breathing smog. Like people had to wear masks. They had to implement like strict regulations in order to clean up Hong Kong. Like people don't seem to realize that. Like this shit happens.
That was the
California
case
was
in
like that
China
for a
too.
while.
Yes, it
Right.
was. Yes,
That's
it
why we
was.
have California emission standards, right? Because California was really bad at one point in time. We we have to stop this nonsense. We are going to kill ourselves, right? In order to make these people richer. And these people don't live in our communities. They don't care.
Yeah.
End of
Yes,
story. They
exactly.
just don't care about us. And you know, when you start looking at your local officials, start looking at those things. You got to start
Yes.
looking at those things because if your local officials are willing to sell you down the river, right? Then you got to pick different public officials because they will
Yeah.
they will sell off your water and allow those data centers without a doubt.
Yep. Yep. So with that, we're going to keep watching this. We'll keep you informed as much as possible, particularly anything that might change. I definitely want to keep an eye on the lawsuit that's taking place in northern Mississippi. I will say this: I don't believe the court entertained Blanche's demand that they throw that case out. I don't think that's happened. So let's hope that keeps going. All right, guys. So in the meantime, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so at this time. We are a new podcast, but we're existing podcasters on the Tau Talk platform. We have a lot of content there, so check that out as well. And share us with your friends and leave us a comment of 7 words or more to feed that algorithm and let us know what you think about data centers. All right, guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you in the next episode. Take
Peace
care.
out.